Welcome to this tutorial, in which we will demonstrate the use of the Danish Biobank Register. Go to www.biobankdenmark.dk and click on Danish Biobank Register. Then click Access the Danish Biobank Register at the bottom of the page. With this tool, we have the unique ability to link register data to biological samples in Danish biobanks. First, we choose which patients we are interested in. For our sample study, we are interested in women diagnosed with breast cancer. Therefore, in this first screen, we will select women born in Denmark. There are various other parameters we can adjust, such as parent's country of birth, the patient's year of birth, and the patient's age when the sample was taken. But to keep it simple, we will accept the default values at present. The Biobank Register will now use data from the Danish Civil Registration System to determine which patients with banked biological samples match our selection criteria. Next, we select our diagnoses of interest. First, we choose the relevant coding system or systems. We can choose among ICD-8 and 10 diagnosis codes, SNOMED pathology codes, and SKS operation codes. In Denmark, diagnoses assigned to hospital in- and outpatients from 1995 onward are registered using the ICD-10 coding system. Before 1995, the diagnoses were registered using ICD-8. Therefore, we need to search the Biobank Register for both ICD-8 and ICD-10 breast cancer codes to get an overview of both recent and earlier cases of breast cancer. For ICD-10, we type DC50 to view all possible codes related to breast cancer. We select all subcodes and add them as primary search criteria. For ICD-8, we type 174 to view breast cancer codes, and add these codes as primary search criteria as well. It's also possible to type a keyword, for instance, diabetes, instead of codes to find relevant diagnoses. We can also add secondary search criteria or exclude specific diagnoses from the search. For instance, we might be interested only in non-diabetic women with breast cancer. In this case, we would add the word diabetes to the omitted search criteria box. However, to keep our demonstration simple, we will not specify omitted search criteria codes. We can also define the patient's age at diagnosis and a diagnosis period in our search, but we will use the default values for now. The system will now use data from the Danish National Patient Register and the Danish Pathology Register to find female breast cancer patients with banked biological samples. Next, we go to the sample screen, where we can select the physical biobanks and sample types we are interested in. By default, all biobanks are selected. We keep the default setting, since we don't know where the relevant samples might be stored. Under sample type, we choose both blood and DNA, because we want to do a biomarker analysis as well as genetic screening. If we wished to, we could also define a specific range of years in which the samples were taken, or maybe, for example, search specifically for umbilical cord samples. We now go to report definition to specify a desired format for the data we will receive from the Biobank Register. Here we have numerous options. We want to know how many unique patients there are samples for, where the samples are stored, and what sample types are available. So we select Biobank as a primary variable and sample type as a secondary variable. Our counting unit will be number of individuals. We add this definition as output table 1. Now we can define a second table. We keep the primary and secondary variables the same, but change the counting unit to number of samples. We are interested in samples taken as early as 365 days before the date of first diagnosis and up to 7 days after, so that we can compare the biomarker expression patterns before and after breast cancer diagnosis. Therefore, we add these restrictions to our search criteria. Finally, we click Finish, type in our contact information, name our search, and press Submit. Shortly thereafter, we receive an email with the results of our query. The first output table shows us the number of patients with available samples by biobank location and sample type. Table 2 shows us the number of samples taken before, at, and after diagnosis. We can see that the Danish Cancer Society has more than 2,000 DNA samples taken before a first breast cancer diagnosis, and roughly 100 samples taken at or soon after diagnosis. Furthermore, we can see that the Danish National Biobank has over 4,000 pre-diagnosis serum samples, approximately 1,000 serum samples taken at the time of diagnosis, and 10,000 serum samples taken post-diagnosis. This information tells us that there is available biological material relevant to our study goals, allowing us to initiate our project. The next step will be to describe the project in a formal protocol and obtain approvals from one of Denmark's ethics committees and from the Danish Data Protection Agency. Once the project is approved, we can apply to scientific services at Statens Serum Institute to initiate the sample retrieval and delivery process.